I don't know if my fear is real or just a product of my mind, but something inside me screams that today, if I cross that street, I won't come back. I know what you might be thinking, that this is all just coincidence, that my mind is playing tricks on me. But what if I told you there's a notebook, a diary, written by someone who died before I was born, that describes every detail of my life, from the silliest things to moments I had forgotten myself, and that this diary ends with the exact time and location of my supposed death? That's why I'm here, telling you everything, because I need to understand if I'm going crazy or if someone long ago wrote my destiny in permanent ink. Have you ever experienced something that made you doubt your own sanity? Tell me in the comments, because I need to know if it's just me. I was born 2 months after my father died. It's strange to grow up missing someone you never met, but even stranger is the way my mother dealt with it, or rather, didn't deal with it. She never talked about him. Never. Not on holidays, not when I asked. It was as if his name carried some kind of curse, as if invoking his memory was too dangerous. In the house where I grew up, there was an attic, small, dark, smelling of damp wood and repressed longing. My mother locked that place with an old padlock, but time passes and curiosity wins. On my 17th birthday, while looking for an old album with childhood photos, I found the key. It was kinda by accident. It was inside a sewing box in the kitchen, and when I opened the attic, I felt the still, cold air, as if time inside there hadn't moved since he died. Boxes and more boxes, dust, faded memories, and one in particular caught my attention. It was smaller, made of dark wood, with a red ribbon, already faded, tied around it. Inside, his things. A lighter, a black and white photo of my pregnant mother, which I'd never seen, a school medal, a nameless cassette tape, and lastly, a leather notebook with yellowed pages and firm, clean, almost obsessive handwriting. It was my father's diary. At first, it was normal. Daydreams, plans for the future, expectations about the pregnancy, inside jokes with my mother. He seemed real, human, so close to me that for a second, I felt like I knew him. It was almost like talking to a ghost who had finally decided to answer me. But then, the strange passages began. He talked about a child. My eyes ran across the page, and I stopped at one sentence. Today, he fell in the backyard trying to reach the kite. He cried, but soon smiled when he saw I was there. That froze me inside, because that scene happened to me when I was 4 years old. I remember it well. I fell, hurt my chin, cried, and I had the sensation, absurd, that someone was watching over me. Except my father was already dead at that time, and still, he described it with terrifying precision. I kept reading, page after page, moments no one could know. The time I broke my arm playing with the neighbor's dog, the notebook I hid with drawings no one could see, the song I listened to on repeat when I fell in love for the first time, at 12 years old with a look that didn't know how to hide anything, as he wrote. And the most frightening, the anxiety attack I had in the school bathroom, the one I never told anyone about. Not my mother, not my friends. How did he know that? I went back a few pages, read again, rummaged through the box, looked for some sign that it was all a joke. An invention, a bizarre prank. But the smell of the pages, the weight of the notebook, the handwriting, everything was too real to be fake. In those days, I started acting strange. I became quieter, distracted. My mother noticed, but I changed the subject, said it was because of school, college applications. A lie. The truth is, I was afraid of myself, afraid of what I was discovering. I even tried to confront my mother, gently. Asked about the diary, about the attic, about him. She went pale, changed the subject, and for the first time, I saw terror in her eyes. That destroyed me inside, because it seemed like I wasn't just discovering things about my father, but about a secret my mother had been keeping for 17 years. But still, nothing prepared me for what would come next. Because at the end of the diary, my father stopped telling about the past and started describing the future. My future. And there, very clearly, in letters that seemed more pressed, more urgent, he wrote, on September 4th at 6:47 p.m., he will be crossing the street by the bookstore when the traffic light fails. And I froze. Because today is September 4th, and I just received a message from my friends inviting me to the bookstore. I should have stopped reading there, at that sentence, at that damn date, but something was pulling me. It was as if I needed to know what came next, as if stopping in the middle would leave me even more vulnerable, as if the unknown was more dangerous than the inevitable. My fingers trembled, but I continued. The sentence ended like this: he will be crossing the street by the bookstore when the traffic light fails. He'll look to the left, distracted. He won't see the car. There were no details about what would happen after, just that. But it was enough to make my throat dry, as if I had swallowed glass. I looked at the clock. 5:22 p.m. A little over an hour left. And I still had my phone in hand, looking at my friend's message. Heading to the bookstore, 6 p.m. We'll wait for you there. The irony was so absurd it hurt. The bookstore was our meeting point. It was on the corner of the main street, across from an old traffic light that, now that I thought about it, was always malfunctioning. But I had never noticed that as something important. Until now. I felt nausea rising. My head seemed to spin in slow motion, and then what I would call reality sliding began. First came the coincidences. I turned on the radio to try to distract my mind. The song that started playing? The same one my father said I listened to repeatedly at 12 years old. I thought, okay, it's just coincidence. Just coincidence. I turned it off. Silence. But then my phone vibrated. It was my mother. And before I could answer, the call dropped. I looked at the display, the number that appeared for a second, and I swear this was the number of the house where I was born, not her cell phone. I thought I was going crazy, but then the call came again, and this time it was really her. Son, where are you? At home. Why? Don't go out today, okay? I'm feeling something strange. Her voice was trembling, and for a second, I realized she knew something. I took a deep breath, said I wasn't going out. I lied. She hung up, and the silence became heavy. I went to the window. The street was normal. Children playing ball, the neighbor's dog barking, but there was something in the air. Something invisible, but dense, as if the world had held its breath. I picked up the diary again, read the previous pages, and I began to notice a pattern. It wasn't just about facts. It was about emotions, fears I never told, mistakes no one knew. How did he know these things?
Did my mother tell him everything? But some things not even she knew. On the page before the last, there was a sentence that knocked me down. He will want to change destiny, but everything has already been written. I closed the diary, my breathing uneven, my heart wanting to escape from my chest. I was inside a trap, but the worst part was, what if the trap was myself? At 5:45 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I put on my sneakers, grabbed my bike key, and left. I felt like someone going to their own trial. On the way to the bookstore, I saw faces I had never noticed, people who looked at me as if they knew, or maybe it was just paranoia. But a woman in purple dress whispered something as she passed by me. I didn't understand, but I was certain she said my name. My friends were already on the bookstore sidewalk. They waved, laughed at some joke, nothing out of the ordinary. And that's when I realized I was alone in this parallel reality. They didn't know. They didn't feel. They didn't read the diary. 2 minutes left. I looked at the traffic light. It was green, but it trembled, blinked slightly. A subtle warning. A lurking malfunction. My feet stuck to the ground. My body froze, but my mind raced. What if I don't cross? Can I change everything? What if none of this is real? What if I wrote the diary and forgot? This last idea paralyzed me. The handwriting was similar to mine. Not identical, but close. The same slightly crooked R. The same way of curving the S. And if I was my father? The idea hit me like lightning. A cycle. A repetition. My father died 2 months before I was born, but no one saw the body. There was no wake, just a certificate and a locked box in the attic. In school, I always thought I looked more like my grandfather's than my mother, but I had never seen a clear photo of my father until I opened that box. I took the photo again, looked carefully, and the world spun. The man in the photo had a look I recognized, not because it was familiar, because it was mine. Because the only thing it did was send time back to square one. This was the beating wing of a butterfly in ancestral time. This was the chaos as a physical law tempting me to follow.
6:46 p.m. 1 minute. I leaned against the bookstore wall, my heart pounding so loud it muffled all the sounds around me. Everything seemed to spin in slow motion. People walking on the street looked like blurs, as if they were poorly rendered memories from a dream. And then, the traffic lights started blinking, from green to yellow, from yellow to red. And then, it went black. Out. Dead. My body froze, but my friends, unaware of anything, crossed the street laughing, looking at their phones. I stayed, on the other side, paralyzed. And it was at that exact moment that I saw me, on the other side of the street, standing. Exactly the same haircut, same clothes, even the same dirty sneakers at the tip. But he didn't see me. Looked to the side, confused, and crossed, exactly at 6:47 p.m. A black car appeared from the corner at an absurd speed. No engine sound, no headlights. The impact didn't happen because the body disappeared, as if it were sucked by its own shadow, as if it had dissolved at the moment of collision. The screams came seconds later, but I couldn't hear them. All I heard was a buzzing, as if something inside my head had broken. I looked around. My friends were in shock. The car? Gone. The crowd ran to see what had happened, but there was nothing. No body,
No blood? Nothing. And there I was, standing, watching a version of myself disappear at the exact second the diary predicted. But I was still there, whole, alive. Or wasn't I? Suddenly, an elderly man approached me. Deep eyes, pale face. He seemed to know something. You chose not to cross. Interesting. Who are you? My voice came out low, almost begging for meaning. Just someone who already read their own ending and decided to write it again. Before I could ask more, he handed me an envelope and walked away. Inside the envelope, a torn page from the diary. It wasn't the last page, it was the first. And on it, written in handwriting I now recognized as mine, "If you're reading this, it's because it's time to remember. Not every cycle needs to repeat, but you need to see it through to the end, even if the end is you." My head spun. I tried to breathe. The world seemed to fold around me, as if time was rewriting itself. The bookstore, which before was just a familiar facade, now seemed different. The wood on the door was burned. The sign said another name. Inside, the lights flickered like candles about to go out. I went in. Inside, there was no one, except a child, sitting on the floor, drawing in a notebook. I approached slowly. The child didn't look at me, but drew furiously. When I got close, I saw what it was. He was drawing the hit-and-run scene, with blood, with details, with me. I tried to talk to him. "Who are you?" He looked at me, and it was me, at 6 years old, identical to an old photo. "You stopped listening to us." "Us who?" "The voices that were always there, the one that warned you when something was going wrong, the one that told you not to trust, the one that whispered when you dreamed too much. Are you real? Do you think you are?" The bookstore floor began to shake slightly. The shelves fell in slow motion, but the boy, me, kept drawing, and now he was drawing something new. A man fallen on the ground, with the same envelope in his hands. It was me, again. Everything spun. The bookstore turned to dust, the walls disappeared, and I was in the attic, again, with the diary in my hand, at 17 years old, as if nothing had happened, but the detail was different. On the diary cover now, my father's name was no longer there. My name was written, as the author.
I returned to the attic that evening like someone returning from a war no one saw happen. My hands were shaking. The diary was still there, open. But the last page now was different. Instead of the description of my supposed death, there was only one sentence. "The ending changes when you accept it was never written." And there, everything stopped. I no longer knew what was memory, what was delirium, what was destiny, or just paranoia of a lonely boy afraid of being forgotten by someone he never met. Because yes, my father died 2 months before I was born. But what does it mean to die if someone still lives inside you? Was the diary his or mine? Was everything a projection of my head trying to fill his absence with some meaning? Or was it that I never existed and it was him trying to communicate with what would have been me? My mother called me from downstairs. Her voice sounded distant, as if it came from a poorly tuned radio. I took a while to respond. I went down the stairs slowly, looked at the world around me with different eyes. Everything was still there, but it seemed reprogrammed. My friends sent a message asking why I didn't go. "Did you see that weird blackout downtown? It looked like something from a movie. Lucky no one got hurt." No one remembers the car. No one saw the boy in the bookstore. No one saw myself cross the street. Just me. Or maybe not even me. And since that day, I've been living with this doubt. Did I change the ending? Or did I just enter the next chapter? The diary remains in my room, but now it writes by itself. Or maybe I write during sleep. I don't know. Sometimes I wake up and there are new pages, pages that describe things that haven't happened yet. Sometimes they describe exactly what I'm doing at that moment, as if someone were watching me, as if I were a character in a book that insists on writing me. And the worst part? Sometimes it's wrong, which makes me think, maybe this story was never about avoiding death, but about seeing life as it really is. Unpredictable, absurd, and profoundly ours. I still haven't decided if I'll keep reading or if I'll keep writing. All I know is that every time I feel lost, I go back to the first page. The one that says, if you're reading this, it's because it's time to remember. But remember what? I don't know. Maybe who I was before all this, or that, in the end, maybe the end never exists. And you? Have you ever found yourself trapped between what you feel and what others expect? Was I the villain here? I really want to know your opinion. Leave your comment. Because sometimes the only way to know if you're awake is when someone else hears you or reads you. And if you read this far, tell me, do you believe in coincidences? Or do you think this story was also about you?